Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I'm going to talk about terminal uniqueness. And terminal uniqueness is the idea that a lot of us had either before, during, or even after our addiction, that we are so unique in our experiences and in our feelings and in other ways that nobody else in the world can understand us, nobody else can identify with us, and worse, nobody else can help us. And it's a feeling that a lot of people in addiction and recovery can probably identify with. It's something that really kept me mired in my addiction, depression, and in a position where I wasn't willing to take help from others and listen to other people for a long time. So I had this feeling of terminal uniqueness from early on in my life. I felt like there were some things that happened to me when I was, even before I was a teenager, that I felt made me different from all of my peers and the people around me. And as I grew up, I developed this identity around the idea that I was different from other people, that other people couldn't understand what I had been through. And I felt that I didn't belong very well with groups. I didn't belong very well in society until I found alcohol. And when I found alcohol in my late teens and started drinking a lot socially and started really getting engaged in social circles that drank and used drugs a lot, that's when I really started feeling like I belonged. So I felt like I could identify with people for a few years, but as my addiction grew and as I started to retreat more and more into my addiction, that feeling of terminal uniqueness came back. And it started as a feeling that I had a special relationship with alcohol. Other people might not be able to drink 18 beers a day and still function, but I could. And that made me special. For some reason, I also felt like I was exempt from the health risks that came with doing something like that. I felt like, other people might develop cirrhosis because they drink too much, but obviously my body can handle it, so I'll be okay. And looking back, that's a fairly silly idea to have, but that's part of terminal uniqueness. And that's why it's called terminal, is that it ends up leading, if you follow it to its logical conclusion, it can end up leading to your death. And so I spent a lot of time in my addiction thinking I was special, that my relationship with alcohol and drugs was special. I felt like I was somehow above everybody else and had a very unique relationship with alcohol and drugs and could use them however I wanted, whenever I wanted, without the kind of consequences that other people had. I also felt like the emotional problems that I felt, the emotional problems that I went through, and the mental health issues that I went through were unique as well. I didn't think any of these, the depression, the anxiety, I didn't think other people could understand what I was going through. And I felt like what I was going through made me unique. And I looked at my life experience and I looked at what had happened to me and I thought, nobody else can understand this. I would go through periods of my life where I would come up against some significant challenges, especially in terms of work. And I would get into these situations and feel like I was I was alone, and that there was nobody in the world who could understand me, and there was nobody else who could understand the challenges that I was going through and what I'd been put up against. And usually in those situations, I would go to somebody to ask advice. How do I deal with the stress of this situation? How do I overcome this challenge? And they would give advice, and I would find all sorts of reasons why that advice won't work for me. That advice won't work for me. And that's another sign of terminal uniqueness, is when you recognize you have a problem you need help with, and then you go ask for help, and you don't think the advice will work for you. That's another sign of terminal uniqueness. And so this went on and on and on, and I had lots of problems. I could go into a lot of details about how these problems manifested in my life. But the last time this really caused some big issues for me was after I quit drinking, but I was still smoking pot, and I was still very much in the frequency of addiction. I was smoking pot all day, every day. And I went to see a counselor to help me confront some depression and anxiety issues I've been having. And this counselor told me, you should consider going to AA to help with the transition from being an alcoholic drinker to not drinking. And I said, well, that's not for me. I don't need that. That might be for other people, but I don't need that. I just need you to fix me. And, her response was, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell you, here's my prescription. Go to AA, see these people, talk to them, and see that you're not unique in your situation. So it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom and finally opened up myself to being helped by other people that I started to see my terminal uniqueness for what it was, which was it was an illusion that I used to prop up my pride and ego. I used terminal uniqueness, this idea that I was special, this idea that nobody else could understand what I was going through, as a means of propping myself up. And it was in treatment that I started to let go of that, because I was around all these people, both in treatment and in meetings that we were going to, people from all sorts of different backgrounds that, these people couldn't be more different from me. I couldn't be more different from them. And yet we all felt the same thing. And that's when I started realizing I was concentrating so hard on the experiences I've had in life, which are unique. Nobody can have the same experiences that I've had, because we're all different people. We all have different experiences. But the feelings and the emotions in life, that's what we all share. That's the language that we can speak to help each other. And I've been concentrating so hard on the experience in life, and how my experience was so different from those around me, that I didn't even stop to think, well, maybe there are some people out there who have felt the exact same emotions that I have. And that's why I love going to AA meetings and any other kind of recovery meeting, because instantly I can feel a connection with people. And I can connect with other people who, even though we've had different experiences in life, we share this strong emotional bond, and we understand the language that each other's speaking almost immediately. And this was when I really started letting go of the idea that I was unique at all. And once I let go of that, I started seeing similarities between myself and other people, not just in addiction and recovery circles, but in every other aspect of life. And all of a sudden, some of the walls that I was building between myself and other people, because I thought we were different, started to come down. And instead of keeping these walls up between me and other people because I thought we were different, I started building bridges with other people because I saw how we were connected. And that was really cool. And I continue to find ways to do that surprise me on a daily basis. I will hear somebody in a meeting at work speak about a topic that I'm interested in, And I'll reach out to them and just say, hey, can we get together for half an hour and talk about this and connect about this? Whereas used to, I'd find all sorts of excuses why this person wouldn't want to talk to me. We're different. We don't do the same thing. There's no way they want to talk to me. And that's just a simple example of how I used to make excuses not to connect with people because I thought I was so different from everybody else. And now because I do think I'm similar to everybody else, I see nothing but reasons to connect. It's a very important part of recovery to connect with other people. And in order to do that, we've got to get rid of this idea of terminal uniqueness. And the best way to do that for me is to just sit in a room full of other addicts and alcoholics, listen to their stories, and realize that the things that I used to go through that I thought were only things that I went through have actually been experienced by many, many other people. And I can reach out, talk to those people, and we can heal together as part of our shared journey in recovery. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more. Have a good one.